nigga Preem in the house. What up?
In the heart of South Jamaica, Queens, a story unfolded that would forever intertwine the worlds of hip-hop and organized crime. Kenneth McGriff, known on the streets as Supreme, was a name that echoed through the corridors of the music industry and the dark alleys of the criminal underworld.
Murder Inc. was funded by, essentially illegal money coming from Supreme. Is that accurate?
McGriff's journey from a neighborhood hustler to a feared drug kingpin and eventually to a figure deeply connected to the hip-hop world is a saga marked by ambition, power, and an inevitable downfall.
It was all they did to me so I wouldn't help Supreme fight his case.
Born into a blue-collar family, his early life seemed unremarkable, yet the streets of South Jamaica were a crucible, forging destinies in unexpected ways. The 1980s crack epidemic provided a backdrop to McGriff's rise as he formed the Supreme Team, a gang that would become notorious for its ruthless efficiency and lavish lifestyle. As he navigated the treacherous waters of the drug trade, his path crossed with key figures in the hip-hop industry, including Gotti, the founder of Murder Inc. Records. This intersection of crime and music would not only shape McGriff's life, but also leave an indelible mark on the hip-hop community. His influence extended beyond the streets, touching the lives of artists and shaping the narrative of hip-hop during its formative years. Yet, as with many tales of power and ambition, McGriff's story is also one of downfall. His journey through the criminal justice system, marked by high-profile trials and controversies, mirrored the darker side of the American dream. McGriff's legacy, however, remains complex, a figure revered by some for his street savvy and business acumen and reviled by others for the violence and destruction he wrought. Let us delve into the depths of McGriff's life and his impact on the world around him. From the housing projects of Queens to the recording studios of Manhattan, McGriff's life is a testament to the blurred lines between legality and lawlessness, and the often unseen connections between street life and mainstream culture. In the landscape of South Jamaica, Queens, where the crack epidemic was reshaping the social fabric, McGriff's Supreme Team emerged not just as participants, but as architects of a new order. The 1980s were a time of transformation, and McGriff, with his keen street intellect and unyielding ambition, was at the forefront of this change. The Supreme Team's operations were a stark contrast to the chaotic nature of street-level drug dealing. McGriff's leadership transformed their activities into a well-oiled machine, mirroring the efficiency of legitimate businesses. This structured approach was revolutionary in the underworld and set the Supreme Team apart from their contemporaries. McGriff's ability to maintain discipline among his ranks, coupled with his strategic acumen, turned the Supreme Team into a formidable force in the drug trade. His influence extended beyond the mere transactional nature of drug dealing. He understood the importance of community ties and often engaged in acts that would endear him and his organization to the neighborhood. From organizing basketball tournaments to hosting musical performances, McGriff's actions were calculated to build a rapport with the residents of South Jamaica. This approach was not just about building goodwill, it was also a strategic move to ensure the loyalty and silence of the community. As McGriff's empire expanded, so did his legend. Stories of his exploits and the Supreme Team's lavish lifestyle began to permeate the culture of South Jamaica. McGriff himself became a figure of intrigue, admired by some for his entrepreneurial spirit and feared by others for his reputed ruthlessness. The Supreme Team's narrative was one of excess and extravagance, with tales of luxury cars, designer clothes, and extravagant parties becoming synonymous with their name. However, McGriff's ascent was not without challenges. The world he operated in was fraught with danger, and the Supreme Team's dominance made them a target for both law enforcement and rival gangs. McGriff's leadership was tested as he navigated these threats, employing a mix of strategic alliances and, when necessary, brutal force to maintain his position. He seemed to have chosen this path due to lack of economic opportunities, systemic racism, and the war on drugs that had created an environment where the allure of the drug trade was often seen as the only viable path to success for many young men in neighborhoods like South Jamaica. Kenneth McGriff's early years, and the formation of the Supreme Team paint a complex picture of a man and an organization that were products of their environment. Amidst the crack epidemic that was going on in Jamaica at the time, the Supreme Team, under Kenneth McGriff's leadership, rose to become a dominant force in the drug trade. This chapter was not just about the proliferation of drugs. It was about the birth of an empire that would leave an indelible mark on the streets of New York. McGriff's Supreme Team operated with a level of sophistication and organization that was unprecedented in the street drug trade. They turned the Baseley Park housing projects into the nerve center of their operations, creating a stronghold that was fortified and fiercely guarded. McGriff's business model was based on efficiency and control. He established a hierarchy within the team, assigning specific roles and responsibilities, ensuring that the operation ran smoothly and effectively. The Supreme Team's rise was characterized by their ability to monopolize the crack cocaine trade in their territory. They employed innovative tactics for distribution and security, setting up a network of lookouts and enforcers to protect their interests. McGriff's leadership was pivotal in this expansion. He was a figurehead, deeply involved in the strategic planning and execution of their operations. The team's success was also due to McGriff's understanding of the importance of community relations. He was known to reinvest in the neighborhood, contributing to local events and charities. This approach helped to build a protective buffer around the Supreme Team, as many in the community saw them as benefactors rather than just drug dealers. McGriff's ability to blend ruthlessness with a form of street-level philanthropy was a key factor in the Supreme Team's enduring influence. However, with great power came great scrutiny. The Supreme Team's operations did not go unnoticed by law enforcement. As their empire grew, so did the attention from the police and federal agencies. McGriff and his team were constantly under the watchful eye of authorities, leading to a cat-and-mouse game between the gang and law enforcement. The Supreme Team's influence extended beyond the realm of drug dealing. They became cultural icons in South Jamaica, embodying the complex dynamics of street credibility, wealth, and power. McGriff, in particular, became a symbol of the ultimate success story in the eyes of many in the community, despite the illicit nature of his empire. The 1980s also saw the Supreme Team's influence seep into the burgeoning world of hip-hop. McGriff's connections in the music industry began to form during this period, setting the stage for a crossover that would later define a significant part of his legacy. The team's lifestyle, filled with luxury cars, designer clothes, and extravagant parties, became a source of inspiration for many aspiring rappers who saw McGriff and his crew as embodiments of the success they aspired to achieve. As the decade progressed, the Supreme Team's grip on the drug trade in Queens tightened. Their story became one of legend, a tale of rise and dominance that would be recounted in the streets and in the lyrics of hip-hop songs for years to come. McGriff's leadership had propelled the Supreme Team to the pinnacle of the drug world, but this peak was also the beginning of a journey towards an inevitable decline. The late 1980s marked a turning point in Kenneth McGriff's life and the saga of the Supreme Team. McGriff's first major encounter with the criminal justice system resulted in a prison sentence, a development that would significantly alter the course of the Supreme Team. McGriff's conviction and subsequent imprisonment sent shockwaves through the Supreme Team. The man who had been the heart and brain of the organization was suddenly removed from the equation. This absence created a power vacuum and tested the structural integrity of the Supreme Team. McGriff's leadership had been a unifying force, and his absence raised questions about the future of the organization. In McGriff's absence, the Supreme Team's leadership fell to his nephew, Gerald Prince Miller. Miller, known for his more aggressive and less diplomatic approach, steered the Supreme Team into a new era. Under Miller's leadership, the organization maintained its dominance in the drug trade, but the methods changed. The team became more violent and unpredictable, a shift that reflected Miller's personality and management style. Miller's reign was marked by a series of brutal acts that instilled fear both within the organization and among its rivals. The Supreme Team's operations under Miller were characterized by a heightened level of brutality, a stark contrast to McGriff's more calculated approach. This change in leadership style had a profound impact on the team's internal dynamics and its relationship with the community. Meanwhile, McGriff's time in prison was a period of reflection and recalibration. Removed from the day-to-day operations of the Supreme Team, he began to envision a life beyond the drug trade. McGriff's thoughts turned to legitimate business ventures, a pivot that would later define his post-prison endeavors. However, the allure of the streets and the power he wielded as the head of the Supreme Team were not easily left behind. McGriff's imprisonment also had a significant impact on the broader landscape of the drug trade in Queens. The Supreme Team's change in leadership style and the resulting increase in violence caught the attention of law enforcement, leading to increased pressure on the organization. The streets of South Jamaica were witnessing a transformation as the Supreme Team's grip on the drug market faced challenges from both internal strife and external forces. The Supreme Team, while weakened by the absence of its leader, demonstrated a degree of resilience. However, the shift in leadership style under Miller led to a more volatile and dangerous environment, both for the team members and the community at large. As McGriff served his sentence, the world outside continued to evolve. The crack epidemic was at its peak, and the war on drugs was intensifying. The landscape that McGriff would re-enter upon his release was significantly different from the one he had left. His time behind bars was not just a pause in his criminal career. It was a pivotal moment that would shape his future choices and the legacy of the Supreme Team. The early 1990s marked a new chapter in Kenneth McGriff's life. Released from prison, McGriff found himself in a world that had evolved during his incarceration. The streets of South Jamaica had changed, and so had McGriff. His ambitions, once rooted in the drug trade, now turned towards the entertainment industry, a sector that offered both legitimacy and the allure of influence. McGriff's foray into the entertainment world was not a mere coincidence. It was a strategic move. He recognized the parallels between the streets and the music industry. Both realms valued loyalty, street credibility, and the ability to navigate complex power dynamics. McGriff's entry into this new arena was facilitated by his connection with Gotti, a rising figure in the hip-hop scene and the founder of Murder Inc. Records. Gotti and McGriff's relationship was built on mutual respect and shared roots in Queens. McGriff, with his street reputation and connections, offered Gotti a kind of authenticity and protection in the hip-hop world. In return, Gotti provided McGriff with an entry point into an industry that was rapidly gaining cultural and economic power. This symbiotic relationship marked the beginning of McGriff's second act, one that was as controversial as his first. McGriff's involvement in the entertainment industry was multifaceted. He began by investing in and producing films, an endeavor that aligned with his long-standing interest in storytelling and the portrayal of urban life. McGriff's ambition was to create narratives that resonated with the experiences of people from communities like South Jamaica. His projects were extensions of his life story and the environment he knew so well. However, McGriff's transition was not without its challenges. His past as a drug kingpin cast a long shadow, and his involvement in the music industry was viewed with suspicion by both law enforcement and some within the industry itself. The lines between McGriff's former life and his new venture were often blurred, leading to controversies and legal scrutiny. The relationship between McGriff and Gotti also had a significant impact on the hip-hop scene. McGriff's presence in the background of Murder Inc. added a layer of intrigue and authenticity to the label. Artists associated with Murder Inc., such as Ja Rule and Ashanti, benefited from the street credibility that McGriff brought to the table. This period saw a fusion of the street ethos with mainstream hip-hop, a trend that McGriff and Gotti were instrumental in shaping. McGriff's involvement in the entertainment industry was a reflection of his adaptability and his understanding of power dynamic. He navigated this new world with the same acumen he had displayed in the drug trade. However, the entertainment industry presented its own set of challenges and complexities. McGriff's past, his reputation, and his ongoing connections to the streets continued to influence his journey in the world of music and film. As McGriff established himself in the entertainment industry, his story took on new dimensions. He was no longer just a figure of the criminal underworld. He was now a player in a world that shaped culture and public opinion. This transition from the streets to the studio was a testament to McGriff's resilience and his ability to reinvent himself. However, the shadows of his past were never far behind, and they would continue to play a role in the unfolding narrative of his life. The late 1990s and early 2000s in the hip-hop industry were marked by a notorious notorious feud that brought Kenneth McGriff's name to the forefront once again. This time, it was his alleged involvement in the conflict with rapper 50 Cent, born Curtis Jackson, that captured the public's attention. 50 Cent, a rising star in the hip-hop world, was known for his unflinching lyrics that often drew from his experiences in the streets of Queens. His song, Ghetto Quran, put him at odds with several figures from the drug world, including McGriff. The song, which detailed the activities of various drug dealers from Queens, was seen as a violation of the street code of silence. McGriff, whose name was mentioned in the song, reportedly took offense to this portrayal. The tension between the drug lord and 50 Cent escalated rapidly. In May 2000, 50 Cent was shot 9 times in an incident that many speculated was connected to his lyrical provocations. While McGriff was never charged in relation to the shooting, his name was consistently linked to the incident in media reports and street rumors. This event marked a significant moment in the feud, intertwining McGriff's legacy with the narrative of one of hip-hop's biggest stars. McGriff's alleged involvement in the music industry's darker side was not limited to his feud with 50 Cent. His association with Gotti and Murder Inc. records brought him under the scrutiny of law enforcement agencies. The federal government began investigating McGriff for various criminal activities, including drug tea and money laundering, allegedly connected to his involvement in the music industry. The investigation into McGriff and Murder Inc. was part of a larger crackdown on the alleged intersection of criminal activities and the hip-hop industry. The federal probe put a spotlight on McGriff's past and present activities, blurring the lines between his legitimate business endeavors and his alleged ongoing involvement in criminal enterprises. Throughout this period, McGriff maintained a complex relationship with the hip-hop community. To some, he was a figure of intrigue and respect, a symbol of the street ethos that was a core element of hip-hop culture. To others, he was a controversial figure, emblematic of the problematic nexus between crime and entertainment. The feud with 50 Cent and the subsequent legal battles marked a tumultuous period in McGriff's life. It was a time when his past as a drug kingpin and his aspirations in the entertainment industry collided, creating a narrative that was as compelling as it was contentious. As McGriff navigated the complexities of his involvement in the hip-hop industry and the legal challenges that came with it, his life story continued to evolve. The feud with 50 Cent and the federal investigation were indicative of the intricate and often murky relationship between the streets and the studio, between the narratives of hip-hop and the realities of the criminal world. The early 2000s marked the beginning of the end for Kenneth McGriff and the once feared Supreme Team. This period was characterized by intense legal scrutiny, trials, and the eventual unraveling of McGriff's criminal empire. The downfall of McGriff was not just the story of one man's decline, it was a reflection of the changing dynamics in the streets and the relentless pursuit of justice by law enforcement. The federal investigation into McGriff's activities, particularly his alleged involvement in criminal enterprises connected to the music industry, intensified. McGriff, along with Gotti and others associated with Murder Inc. records, found themselves at the center of a high-profile money laundering and racketeering case. The charges stemmed from McGriff's alleged continued involvement in drug tea and other criminal activities, purportedly using the music label as a front. The trial was a media spectacle, drawing attention not just for its high-profile defendants, but also for the broader implications it had on the hip-hop industry. The case against McGriff and Gotti was built on a combination of surveillance, wiretaps, and testimonies from former associates. The prosecution painted a picture of McGriff as a mastermind who continued his criminal activities under the guise of a legitimate business in the entertainment industry. McGriff's defense team argued that his involvement in the music industry was a legitimate attempt to turn his life around, and that the government was unfairly targeting him due to his past. They contended that McGriff was being scapegoated for the broader issues of crime and violence associated with hip-hop culture. The trial and the media coverage it garnered brought to light the complex relationship between the street and the music industry. It highlighted the thin line between reality and perception, between the persona of the street-savvy executive and the alleged criminal activities behind the scenes. In the end, McGriff was convicted on several charges, including drug tea, racketeering, and murder. The conviction was a significant blow to McGriff and marked the official end of the Supreme Team's reign. McGriff's sentence to life in prison was a stark reminder of the consequences of a life entangled in crime. The downfall of McGriff also signaled a shift in the landscape of the drug trade in Queens. The Supreme Team, once an untouchable empire, was now a part of history. The streets of South Jamaica, which had once thrived under the shadow of McGriff's organization, were now witnessing a new era, one that was less dominated by the presence of a single powerful entity. McGriff's conviction and the dismantling of the Supreme Team were not just the culmination of a criminal career. They were emblematic of the broader war on drugs and the government's efforts to clamp down on the alleged intersection of crime and the entertainment industry. The story of Kenneth McGriff and the Supreme Team transcends the narrative of a criminal empire's rise and fall. It is a tale deeply woven into the fabric of New York's urban culture, particularly within the hip-hop community. McGriff's legacy is complex, marked by both infamy and a certain degree of reverence, reflecting the multifaceted nature of his influence. In the streets of South Jamaica, Queens, McGriff's name continues to resonate. For some, he is remembered as a symbol of the harsh realities of street life, a figure who embodied the struggles and aspirations of many in the community. McGriff's rise from the neighborhood to the pinnacle of the drug trade is seen by some as a twisted version of the American dream, a narrative of success against all odds, albeit through illicit means. In the hip-hop world, McGriff's impact is equally nuanced. His connection to the industry, particularly through his association with Gotti and Murder, Inc. Records, positioned him as a figure of intrigue. McGriff represented the gritty authenticity that many in hip-hop sought to associate with. His story, with its blend of street credibility, power, and eventual downfall, has been a source of inspiration for lyrics and narratives within the genre. However, McGriff's legacy is also marred by the darker aspects of his life. The violence and destruction that were part of the Supreme Team's modus operandi left a lasting scar on the community. The lives lost and the families affected by the team's activities are a somber reminder of the cost of their empire. The end of McGriff's reign and his subsequent incarceration marked a turning point in the history of South Jamaica. The dismantling of the Supreme Team led to a power vacuum and a reshaping of the neighborhood's criminal landscape. McGriff's absence from the streets left a legacy that is still being unraveled, with new players and dynamics emerging in the wake of the Supreme Team's dissolution. McGriff's influence extended beyond the immediate sphere of his operation. His story is a reflection of the broader societal issues that plagued urban communities in the 1980s and 1990s. The crack epidemic, systemic poverty, and the allure of the drug trade are all part of the backdrop against which McGriff's story played out. His life serves as a case study in the complexities of crime, punishment, and redemption in America's urban centers. McGriff's journey from the housing projects of South Jamaica to the heights of the drug trade, and eventually to the corridors of the entertainment industry, is a multifaceted tale. It speaks to the allure of power and the seductive nature of the criminal underworld. McGriff's rise and fall embody the harsh realities of street life and the fine line between success and self-destruction. In the hip-hop community, McGriff's influence remains a subject of fascination and debate. His story has been immortalized in lyrics, serving as both a cautionary tale and a symbol of the gritty authenticity that defines much of the genre. The impact of McGriff's actions extends beyond his personal narrative. The Supreme Team's reign and subsequent downfall had significant repercussions in South Jamaica and similar communities. Their story highlights the broader societal issues of the era, including the crack epidemic, systemic inequality, and the challenges faced by urban youth. McGriff's life serves as a reminder of the potential consequences of limited opportunities and the allure of illicit paths to success. As McGriff's chapter closes, the lessons of his life remain relevant. His story is a reflection of the choices that define us, the paths we take, and the legacy we leave behind. It underscores the importance of understanding the context of one's environment and the impact of one's actions on the community. Kenneth McGriff's narrative is not just a tale of a criminal empire. It is a human story marked by complexity and contradiction. It is a story of ambition, power, and the pursuit of a twisted version of the American dream. McGriff's life, with its triumphs and tragedies, serves as a poignant narrative about the cost of choices and the indelible impact one person can have on their community and culture. As we reflect on McGriff's journey, we are reminded of the enduring impact of our actions and the importance of the choices we make. McGriff's story, though unique in its details, is a universal tale of ambition, consequence, and the search for redemption. That's it for today. See you next time.